I was out for a drink with Bruce and we were starting to talk about, ideas of videos for the new album and which track to use. Well, that was pretty obvious from where we're sitting.
Talking to Rod, and I said, look, we should do something really different. We should do something that would be groundbreaking for us and for a lot of other people. We should do it like a really cool video.
Yeah, this great script, a great idea for this song, which he conceived in terms of being a live production, and which would have been pretty fantastic and would probably cost about $20 million. So I spent about a week of sleepless nights, but fortunately at the same time, Shaki was talking to Mark and Andrew, who were ex-Pixar executives, and about a potential for an animated series, which really appealed.
What if we could do a cartoon with Eddie? And so I contacted a good friend of mine who I've worked at Pixar with for many years, named Mark Andrews, who is a huge Iron Maiden fan.
Texted me out of the blue one day and said, what would you think about doing an Iron Maiden animated series? And I said, in.
So we drew up some storyboards, we took a piece of music and we animated something to it and we sent it to the band. And they liked it so much that we ended up getting a call back and they said, hey guys, you did a great job on this. Maybe not, a cartoon right now, but we do have something else you might be interested in.
It just seemed a good idea to talk to Mark and Andrew about saying that as a trial, why don't we try out and why don't you get involved in our video? And they were very, very enthusiastic. So spoke to Bruce and he just thought it was a great way of doing it. So we concentrate on that script.
I'm kind of thinking, okay, suppose we kind of did Belshazzar's Feast with Eddie somehow as like a kind of Daniel figure.
Very quickly, we were in a good place. Bruce had developed his storyline. We'd got Mark and Andrew in place. They were up for doing this. And it just then remained for us to kind of let them interact.
Bruce had done a write-up of what a possible video could be.
Here's a big debauched party for the elite and everybody else can't get in. And I thought, well, that's the world. So I started sketching out in my crappy little pencil drawings, little stick men doing things and scenes.
And it was bonkers crazy. It was kind of this biblical story meets all these different themes he's touching on about humanity better be careful because the writing's on the wall that we're destroying the planet, and visual kind of sight symbolism. And I was just eating it up. I mean, it was great. As a visual artist, a storyteller, it's like, yeah, I totally get it. There's a lot here, to stuff into one. The song's about 6 minutes long, so 1 6-minute animated video.
Bruce likes people with attention to detail who can also, share his vision. And we straight away got it that those guys just totally understood what Bruce wanted.
Working with Bruce was amazing because Bruce is not only a great, rock star and rock singer, but he has such great ideas about filmmaking. As well as Rod Smallwood, the band's, manager. He has such a great sense of who these characters are, what they should be doing, obviously, and what feels right.
I felt good at a happy artist with the vision for the script. We had the team working with the creatives, who then went off and got the team together with the whole people you're going to see on this fantastic video. And it was sheer relief and sheer excitement and pretty good confidence in we're going to come out with something pretty special.
Pandemic happened just as we're plotting this all out.
That's a cool mask, Shaki. I gotta get me one of those masks.
There you go.
Where do I get that? I gotta get. Hey, Bruce. What's up?
IamMaiden.com, Andrew, where you get everything from.
All right,
That's where I
gonna
do
get
all
it.
my shopping, Andrew. Come
All
on.
right, I'm gonna get it.
What's that in your face? What? Is that a mask?
It was always fun to hop on the Zoom call and chat with them and spin ideas.
First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take you through the storyboards and pitch you guys kind of what I've done.
So we had these Zoom calls at pretty regular intervals over quite a few months. So because putting something like this together takes a long time. And the first one was funny because Mark basically spent the first 20 minutes explaining what a big Maiden fan he was and all the reasons why, and how we sort of thought that we were all super legendary, and it was really, really fucking embarrassing. But once that was over, we talked to them. Then they were obviously guys who were very passionate, but also very talented.
And this figure enters because of the above light, makes it like I have a skull-like face. I was thinking he might be wearing a Maiden t-shirt all torn up.
And when we went through the first Zoom on their first storyboards of how they visualized everything, it was obviously going to work.
Bruce had said there's an invitation to come to this thing, so I thought that was a cool idea.
Really got Bruce's vision on the video, and I felt very comfortable right from the off.
And this is just as the song is settling down. You'll see, and the first nuke goes off, and more nukes and more nukes and more nukes. And then the shockwave starts to overtake the camera. We go to white, and then that's the end. Yay!
Encore.
So what's going to happen in the video then?
So after the first storyboards were shared, I just remember Rod and I had, smiles on our faces, and we were just like, was that better than we thought it would be? For a very first look, it was all sketched out. That was a great moment. That's when I think we knew we were off to the races.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? When I was writing the storyboard, that is exactly, you got the tempo. As soon as you get the storyboard and you hear the song, it makes sense. You've got that great long guitar section to play with.
Oh, yeah.
And the guitar solos work, some great visuals on that.
Mark took Bruce's script and he turned it into imagery. He turned it into an idea of, these four riders, and he was able to kind of set up the composition a lot.
So I took moments from the video and kind of plotted out. I had 12 images.
I mean, I want them all on my wall. I was just like, man, that's stunning.
And that really kind of set kind of the style and the look of the video.
They got it. They bought into the whole concept. So now we had a team of three of us, and they're experienced animation people.
And then it was all about finding the right studio to produce it. And that's where Andrew Gordon really came in. He just is sharp and super smart, and is kind of a bulldog getting in and looking at a bunch of stuff. So he was finding some studios and examples and shipping it to me. And he said, what do you think about these guys? I'm like, I don't know. What do you think about these guys? These guys are good. And then he found Blink Inc. and sent me that stuff. I'm like, these guys are awesome.
I had really respected their work on previous, videos that they had done animated, and just in general, some of their commercial work. And I thought that they would be a great choice.
So Bruce had obviously given us the script full of ideas, and Mark then came in with the first pass of boards, really amazing, super cinematic. So that gave us like the exact script from Bruce, storyboarded out, and we could watch the whole thing. And then it was my job to come in and kind of hone it in, and make it digestible and kind of streamline it, really.
They took over and started tweaking the storyboard, and then I would see it. And my job as kind of director, creative supervisor, whatnot, was to sit on them and really dial in the cinematic look, the staging and the composition of all those shots, to make sure that we still had all this dynamics that were happening to it. So we got into great conversations and meetings. We're riffing off each other, and I'm saying, this is great, how about this? And let's push this here. And they're going, that's awesome. And so the whole process has been super collaborative, and it's been fast.
Blink was able to kind of, get a great group of people together with our director Nikos and our producer Alex.
When I found out that I could possibly direct the new Maiden video, I was just like mad excited. I I just wanted to know everything straight away. I wanted to send me the track, and I was just like emailing my lot of like production frantically, just like, yeah, send me, when's the deadline, when's this, I want to know everything, because I knew what I wanted to make. Like, I've had an idea in terms of like animation technique of how I'd approach a Maiden video for years. I know, like, I wanted to like get my foot in the door with them and kind of show them what I wanted to do.
He has super sharp, clear ideas, and he was really kind of the force to enrich every little detail. So he would get a new idea, he'd send us some art on it, we'd go, this is cool.
Developing the look, yeah, I mean, that's a huge part of my job, you know. It was a massive part was to come in, and after working with the guys on the script and getting the story locked down, is to then world build, really. You know, what is this going to look like? How are we going to do it? You know, what technique we're going to use?
We knew right off the bat that kind of the stylization of the album covers, you know, with that great Derek Riggs art, kind of art directed by Rod Smallwood. So he needs a lot of credit here too, to kind of set us up. Nico's really latched onto that. And that's kind of what the whole stylization of the music video is.
I'd then write, you know, loads of briefs. I would write tons of documents for kind of each department, you know, and each character would have a document with loads of reference and research and little sketches that I'd done.
So animation in general is very procedural. There's certain stages that you have to go through, and if you want to change something at a later stage, usually means going back through all those stages and doing them again. So it's really important they're all on the same page at the very beginning, and we all know what we're doing. We have a clear vision of what we're putting together. And the first part of that stage is the storyboarding and animatic phase.
Very rough drawings of the entire film, so you can see the whole film. And you want to lock that down so that you're not really making any changes, because it's such a labor-intensive process.
So we're just about to play through the animatic, which now has a few of our work-in-progress shots of the animation.
Yeah.
So it's going to look a bit messy at the moment, because it's a lot of rough line work in some shots, and different animators have slightly different styles, which is all going to get cleaned up and colored and highlights and shadows added. Yeah. But it's a good indication of where we're going and what the plan is. So it's kind of the first chance we get to visualize the written script, and it's a really good way of getting everyone on board with the plan of action, because we will use that as our blueprint for the rest of the project, and that's the timeline that we fill in as we get animation and shots updated. So it's a really vital part of the process.
And every meeting, I mean, everybody got to had input, and it was really great. I mean, Bruce was kind of the creator, and he thought it up, and he have all these ideas.
And that's why it's so important not to be specific, simply because we are very close to the kind of jugular vein of what's going on in the world right now, and you've got to strike a path of sort of like, not exactly down the middle of it, but we're not being literal about this. This is what you got is the human condition. You know, we're evil, we're good, we're stupid, we're nasty, we're brilliant, you know, all wrapped up in one.
Dave Shack was instrumental. He had great ideas, and pushed back on some of these ideas that Bruce had, which I think ultimately at the end were good.
Just while we're at this juncture, I think, guys, it's worth probably just mentioning we're almost moving to zombies a little bit in some of the character drawings, and I don't think that's really what we're wanting. I just think we should err on the side of the characters being more human.
And then he had ideas, you know, other ideas which really enrich these plays. Rod was the same way.
If we find it obtuse or wrong or unpleasant, we shouldn't put it in. But because of the way the world is now, if the 3/4 of fucking planet does, let them go off and talk about it. We don't care.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
As long as we are happy with the content and what it represents and how it's represented, fuck everybody else, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
It was this, you know, between Bruce Rod and Shaggy, me, Andrew, Nikos. I mean, there was a lot of fantastic ideas spinning around that just really enriched it. So we threw some stuff out, we put some new stuff in, and it's that iterative process. And everybody was really flexible and very open-minded.
If you take creative people and everybody buys in to the creative concept, then you have to let them go.
It is a process, and you keep iterating, and you know that the first pass is going to be not so great and the second pass is going to be better, and you trust that process.
Since we all kind of dug each other kind of personally, we really respected each other's ideas. We listened to each other, because it would be, I mean, from my point of view, it's intimidating talking to Rod and Bruce. I mean, these are the legends, and you don't want to say no to them, but they take no really well.
You're reliant on other people to interpret what you want, but do it the way you want it, and they'll bring their own spins.
So alongside the storyboards and animatic, we could actually get started with design work. So for the character designs, Nikos found this amazing artist called Ryan Quickfall, who just already had this amazing kind of old school 2D heavy metal aesthetic to his work. So he just seemed perfect for the job.
Well, I've been a fan of Ryan's work for a fair few years, just following him on Instagram. And obviously when we got the script through from Bruce, and he had these cloaked four horsemen, essentially like reapers on Harleys. I was like, I know a guy that draws reapers on Harleys every day.
I'm a freelance illustrator, and a lot of my work is in the motorcycle industry.
So this is our kind of design for the Four Horsemen, sort of raggedy, ripped kind of backs with red, sort of bright red eyes. And then they are riding kind of custom Harleys. Our illustrator is a huge bike nerd and obsessed with bikes. So he was like, custom Harleys is what a Grim Reaper style kind of dude would ride. They wouldn't ride any stock bikes.
So yeah, with these Four Horsemen characters, obviously to me, they're the main feature of this project. And I'm just looking at here how it started and how it presented the initial concepts to the guys. And you can see how much they actually changed along the line. I designed those really ripped and torn cloaks that they have on, because I knew, thinking ahead in animation, that would be amazing to just see them all like floating and being really wispy in the air and stuff.
I think my biggest comment would be, can't we have lots of bikers all the way through? They're fucking great.
Yeah.
I took the general brief of the project and how it was going to look, and worked with Nikos, and I designed exactly how all the characters were going to be, how they were going to look, and based on the storyboard, we knew that certain characters needed to look a certain way, and it was my job to sort of bring those to life.
He's got an amazing draftsmanship, his figurative work is incredible. Yeah, I just remember when getting those first roughs through, and just sort of, one, relieved that we found someone that could nail it, and two, just so excited.
This is our robotic droid DJ synth master.
Could he have more arms, just so he looks ridiculous? Because I hate electronic music, so I think the DJ looks like a complete twat.
Yeah, you can have as many arms as you want.
So for the environment design, we actually split it into two routes. There is the exterior environments and the interior palace environment. So Ryan Quickfall actually ended up doing the exterior layouts, which is the actual design work of each environment, which we then give to a painting team to paint each frame.
Yeah, so there was this whole kind of destroyed planet, desertscape basically, which is Earth in the future that's been destroyed by man and his greed.
And it's this post-apocalyptic, Mad Maxian kind of world, right?
So that's why there's all this kind of like the toxic swirling sky and stuff burning and just complete sort of rubbish everywhere.
We had an amazing painting team on this. We had Cami who was working with us in London.
I was mainly background artist, so maybe making the 2D backgrounds behind the animation. Nikos had some directions. We had the storyboard, obviously, so we always had a composition, you know, and a camera angle and all of that. But then, like, regarding the elements within the shot, you know, like whenever we have, you know, like rubbish in the background or a broken building or whatever, like that's up to us, and we would build it ourselves.
And we also had Tiago, Natalia, Fabio, who are all in Brazil and all diehard Maiden fans. So yeah, that was really amazing to have such a good team on that side of things as well.
We are creating a very topical movie, you know, that have a lot of meanings about what is happening right now. And I felt that Bruce was trying to make the things more human, you know. For example, all the feedbacks I received from Bruce was about add more trash, rubbish, you know, trash plasticky, because it's something that is happening right now in the world.
On some elements, I was never really happy, and I would come back on the shot or the ground, you know, like the crackled ground was a big challenge. The sky, all the skies were a big challenge, and so there are some shots that were approved, and then after a few shots, I would go back to them and improve them, and then send them back to comp and do it a few times over and over until I was finally happy with them.
I was not frustrated by the length of time it took, because it takes that amount of time for it to be excellent.
For the palace exterior, we found an amazing artist called Greg Semko, who actually built the palace exterior in CG. And Mike Luard built and designed the interior of the palace. And the reason we did that in CG, it was really helpful for us to be able to move a camera around in that CG world, because there's so many shots in that interior environment. It means we don't have to go in and draw and kind of do each layout by hand.
The interior of the King's Palace, you know, I went for this kind of more sort of dark and clean metal, black kind of metal that's based off sort of a kind of like a Geiger-esque kind of feel to it. And it just wanted to be a big contrast, you know, that this king is the only guy left with money, really.
And then this is the kind of the grand space.
Yeah, I mean, it's moved on to that like H.R. Geiger thing, but I think it's fantastic.
Big thrusting, dark, menacing triangle out in the middle of this desert.
You know, when we're cutting between inside and out, it's a really kind of contrasting kind of feel to it, but also plays with the whole story of it, that, you know, there are these people that are super greedy while they just let everyone else kind of rot outside.
Once we have the animatic and designs approved, we can actually get started with the animation.
I saw the animatic and I was blown away by it. Immediately I could see what an amazing project it would be. The scope was epic. The character designs looked brilliant. I was really excited to be involved.
Our team of animators are essentially actors. They'll have the animatic for reference to see how long their shots are and how much time they have to get the required action done.
Once I get them, I kind of watch that over a few times and see where it plays in the whole spectrum of the film, the animatic. And then I start to create thumbnails, create initial sketches that I'll show to Nikos, and we'll get some collaborative feedback.
Super sketchy, rough block out animations. So it looks kind of like, you know, rough sketchbook pencil stuff, but you get a sense of it. But if you're not used to looking at that kind of rough stage, it can look really kind of daunting, you know, and you start filling in your edit with like rough animation, and it can kind of be a bit like, what is this going to look like, a sort of sketchbook thing?
I took on quite a few of the probably more complex shots. I firstly handled the goat transformation scene. Occasionally, you know, if we can't figure out a shot, I'll use reference. For the goat transformation scene, obviously I couldn't use reference for that. But for the prior shot where he leans forward and his hair kind of comes forward and goes over his head, I needed to figure out how that was going to be done and what his hair might look like, especially when it's on the floor and slightly in the foreground. So I used my girlfriend, who's got longer hair than me, to just lean forward and watch how her hair hits the floor and spreads out. And so I used that as reference when animating that. And then a few other smaller scenes within the music video that kind of were a little bit tricky to work out. So I did the cutting of the heads, the decapitation shot. That was quite fun.
So yeah, then this cuts to this, so decapitation zone.
Are we going to get an 18 certificate with this, do you think?
Oh, I do hope so.
The very first camera move of the bird coming towards camera and flying past and going into the distance before it turns into the bikes. So a couple of the camera move shots, as well as the more tricky transformation ones.
I did one of the dance shots in the hall, and there were 20 characters in there. We tried to use lots of little tricks and cheats to save time, so I was using lots of cycles. But that still took quite a while to do, a week to do 20 odd characters. The rough drawings are then passed on to the assistant team, who go over them and tie everything down, refine the model, beautify it all, and those are the drawings which are actually seen on screen.
Our team was actually led by Denise Dean, who made sure everyone knew what they were doing. They were all using the same brushes for consistency, just to make sure, over 140 shots, everything needs to look the same. You don't want the characters to look slightly different in the next shot, or the line thickness to change or anything.
In layman's terms, it's making sure all the movement connects together and smoothly. So although you're watching something, you may not understand the dynamics and mechanics of it, but everything plays correctly in a way. The movement is lovely and smooth. And we haven't got any jolting up and down like this, so we make sure everything's correctly drawn. And once the main key positions that the animators give us are cleaned up and okayed, then we jump in and finish off the drawing, so you get that whole animated piece.
It just comes stage by stage, so then you slowly colour those in, neaten up all the line work, get your backgrounds finished, and then it's usually at the compositing stage that stuff starts to sing.
We basically received like a background, like a Photoshop file. So it's divided in different elements, but it's still like a static picture. And that comes from the very talented background artists. And then we received, in this case, we received a biker, like a loop, an animation loop of a biker. And then we received a dust loop from the animators, from amazing animators. And this is again like, it's kind of static in place, isn't it? The biker and the dust. Put it together, it will look like this. So nothing is moving, just the actual biker and the dust is moving, because that's the animated part. And that's when we come in. We as a compositors, we try to add depth onto this picture to just make it look like it's almost been shot, really, from a real camera sort of thing. This one, we start animating the floor, for example, but everything else is static, so it doesn't look really believable. And after the floor, we add some parallax between the elements, so that it start to make sense.
They're doing some amazing stuff. I mean, like, we're starting to see this stuff come together, and it's just beautiful looking. And there's the dirt in there, and the grit, and the steam going by, and all these effects where you feel like it's really starting to look good, and so we're very excited.
Those effects we actually created in comp. Those are animated like the tornado, thunders, and then some animation in the sky and the dust. So once we got the background so final, we're happy with the background, we're gonna start putting in bikers. In this case, obviously, we have to put 4 of them, and then we have to animate them, coming into frame, sort of thing.
What's up, Bruce?
Yeah, what do you reckon? I think it's pretty cool.
It's sweet. It's sweet. It's really awesome seeing everything come together and all the items play, and the integration of, like Nikos was talking about, once you get that kind of the dirt over the animation, it just sits so well into the backgrounds,
Totally.
Yeah, it's going to be
the
fantastic.
shadows, the bloom.
Yeah, and you guys can see by how quick these animation bits are, how fast our cutting is and how much information we have, from your story, slammed in there and just fit tightly in that 7, minutes we got going on. So yeah, that's fantastic.
We can make it longer if you want.
Compositing is a big part of it, and that's the stage you start to see it come together, and you start to go, this is going to be good.
And then the 3D element they're working on as well. Can you guys speak about that a bit?
So it had always been our intentions to, for the first time ever, show Eddie, the album Eddie, in the video. And we were able to do that because in working with Matt Wilkinson and Steve to get the album Eddie done, Matt Wilkinson had employed this amazing video game creator, and he made the Eddie 3D. We had a full visual mold of him, and we were able to bring that to Mark and Andrew and the Blink team, and they were able to incorporate it into the video.
Our Iron Maiden Eddie is going to go in at the end and come out of the pit. The Obi-Wan character that falls into the pit is transformed, Iron Man style, bing, 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 stuff sticking to him, and he comes out the top of the pit as Samurai Eddie.
There's a three-dimensional version of Eddie in this, and we wanted to do that, not to just do something 3D, but it was to make it look almost as if Eddie was from an album cover coming alive, and that he had this painted look.
Along with the new album, like the music, the most exciting part for fans as well is Eddie. What's the new Eddie like? So we were trying to, again, harness the way Eddie looks on the latest artwork, really, which is quite a high fidelity, kind of visceral looking painting. So we opted for a 3D approach.
We had discussions, I was like, I don't know, that I'm not opposed to it, but our concern was, can it fit in the video without standing out and just looking weird?
We've got a team working on the CG development of Eddie, which has got a lot to kind of to go before we can kind of see something. But they're developing all these crazy scripts to kind of integrate Eddie in an interesting way where the 3D doesn't sort of stand out.
The difficulty for us was that we had to integrate this character into this two-dimensional world, but we chose to do it in 3D, and those two worlds not always work together well. So we definitely had to find a way to, do it right.
That was essentially technical. So technical we'll leave to technical.
The artist over at Blink used very interesting technology of like style matching and artificial intelligence and machine learning to kind of have the computer kind of recognize what a Maiden image looks like and apply that kind of feel and that painterly look to the CG that as seen in this image behind me.
So we really had to incorporate it well. And I think that was all on Nikos's shoulders to really get in there and work with his artists.
So we work with our amazing CG lead and CG director, Balash, who created, after chatting to him, was like, we want to create this kind of painted look. How do we get something like that? And he started writing all these crazy scripts and these ways of AI being able to generate a kind of paint over look.
When I found out that we can't really build the character up from the ground, but we have to look for, a visual that we're going towards, we started doing paint overs and actually 2D paintings. So that helped us to define the style we were looking for.
We just received this from our CG guy. This is
nice.
The first, basically the first pass of the Eddie that we've been kind of working up, the CG Eddie.
Love the lightsaber.
Now, you guys are expecting a little bit of expression change. We want to make it feel like his face is alive, obviously, right?
So they'd paint it by hand, they'd paint a frame by hand at the beginning and at the end of a shot of Eddie, and then this AI script would kind of interpret all of that information and kind of create a paint over for the whole thing. So it does have some organic like handwork on top of it.
You know, you could really get a sense of that it is an album cover coming to life. And that's what we were going for. We wanted this new version of Eddie to really pop.
And it works because he comes out of a different universe and he is not of this universe.
He's amazing. He's totally stunning. It totally works. I'm so glad we did that extra effort and went that way, because that's what fans really want to see. You can't skimp on Eddie. I think it's a crime.
The Easter eggs, like any good movie, you know, whether I was working at Pixar or working on this Iron Maiden video, is that you want people to kind of look at them on a second viewing and say, look at that.
Have a couple in there which you really can't see.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we're all going to, you know, like they can find 97 out of 99 or whatever, but the other two are so obscure, it's almost impossible. So no one can actually do it.
It's the ultimate quiz.
I would say that a lot of the Easter eggs were put in by the painters, the animators. The director had a certain idea of where he wanted to place things. Mark had great ideas, you know, in the storyboarding phase of where to put little things. Bruce, the band, wanted their kind of Easter eggs. So I think everybody really contributed to the Easter eggs. And I think that, you know, you'll have to look at the video over and over because there are so many of them. And some of them are a little bit more obscure than others.
I love this film. I don't want to call it a video. It's a movie. It's 6.5 minutes long, that's all. But it is a little mini movie, beginning, middle, end. And it was my hope that it would end up like that.
I think everybody, and I have to, my experiences would mostly be in a previous role, you know, would have some bad horror stories to say about making videos. This one, couldn't speak highly enough of the process.
You know, to work with everybody, it was a great team. Everybody at Blink, everybody over at Maiden, and with, you know, me and Andrew, I mean, it was a dream. We would text each other all the time. Can you believe what we're doing? We're working with Maiden, man. We're working with Maiden.
The collaboration from start to finish has been encapsulated by people going the extra mile, mostly because they were Maiden fans.
Whenever I called somebody and asked whether they wanted to contribute on this project, you know, it just blew their minds. You know, they said, oh, I don't even need money. I don't even care about anything. Just let me work on this project because I've been a fan since I've known I'm living. So yeah, it was crazy. It was a really fun process to find the team and work together with them because they were just, you know, so enthusiastic about it all.
The team for this has been absolutely huge. I mean, it's a beast of a project, so you've got to have a beast of a team.
We had an amazing team on board and we were very lucky to have them, and it definitely helped convincing people to drop what they're doing when you told them it's a music video for Iron Maiden.
Every artist in this project was doing the best, you know, and this there is no price for this, you know, and it's something that I think the technology created for us, you know. For example, I am here in Brazil working with guys from UK and other countries to create something for Iron Maiden, and it's something beautiful, you know. And this is how it's good to be alive today, because it's amazing experience.
It's just been a joy, and when you're working and you get up in the morning and you can't wait to hop on the Zoom call, that tells you a lot.
Bruce is joining us now.
Good morning, guys.
Here he is.
Bruce.
Perfect timing.
Hey,
Bruce. Right, you there? No, I've been here for 5 minutes. We're trying to fix my fucking Nespresso machine. I descaled the bugger and came back from the physio and just walked in, and Ryan was here, and I thought, I've got 5 minutes. I'll go and put it all back together. I'll tell you, we put an AK-47 back together easier than one of those. Anyway, never mind.
I've only had that happen a few times in my life, and this is definitely, you know, a great creative working experience doing this video.
It's pretty bonkers that I'm just my job at the moment is just making a video for my favourite band. So yeah, I think it is a dream, and it's a pleasure to be a part of it, really.
It was a great working experience. Although God knows what happens if you want to make something that's 90 minutes long and animated. I mean, that's why it takes years.
I'm a part of this legacy, right? And working with these, with the band, with Bruce and Rod and Dave, is I get to contribute back. I get to give back over all these years that I've kind of been taking and absorbing. I finally kind of give back, and that made this project not a project, and not an assignment. It was a passion.
Yeah, I think one of the things about it is quite extraordinary that in the creative arts, from graphic novels through to filmmaking, through to illustrations, animation, there are a massive proportion of Maiden fans.
When I look back at this, I can just feel the added love that Maiden fans, and only Maiden fans, could have added to this piece.
It's rare when you get to work on, a project like this. It's usually, they don't come all around too often. Something that you believe in, something that you care about, and something that you're willing to put your blood, sweat, and tears into because of the love of that. And I think that when you watch this video, you'll see that, ultimately it comes out on the screen, all that kind of work, and the fun you have around a project should also come out on the screen. So I hope you enjoy this video. It is something that I hope that we can do more of. And so maybe there'll be more Eddies in the future.
So there you have it. God knows how many months of ideas and work and belief, really. And people have been, everybody from Nikos, the director, Mark, Andrew, Rod, we've all been so committed to this being the best it can possibly be.
And to deal with a team who had the talent they had individually across all the areas involved in such a complicated project as this, it was a real pleasure, because you could tell that everybody was getting so much out of it personally and satisfaction-wise, and being able to contribute to something they'd spent many hours listening to. And actually seeing this programme before I did this little spiel was really heartwarming, because so many people got so much pleasure out of it. And at the end of the day, Maiden's about giving people pleasure, be it the fans, well, they are the fans. So yeah, I mean, just fucking brilliant, really.
It's been a brilliant experience and a real, quite literally, eye-opener in terms of what's possible with animation, and insights into how the magic happens, because it's not an accident. The magic happens because there's a magician in the background doing it, and that was our team. So they made the magic happen, and now you can see it.